Tonight's episode of the 31st Lap Podcast is brought to you by DirtTrackDigest.com. If it's on dirt, it's on Dirt Track Digest.
This is the 31st Lap Podcast, recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now, your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this edition of the 31st Lap Podcast, episode number 230. Big episode on deck for us tonight, number 230. As we still try to keep just a little bit ahead of Crash Course Derby Podcast, which airs on Monday nights. We're going to take a little bit of a look ahead to this weekend's Outlaw 200. We're going to talk a little bit about one of the drivers that's making the drive up from Georgia to compete in that event. Look back in time at the Gunslinger 50 won by Steve Payne over at Outlaw Speedway. But before we get into all that, we've got a new, I guess Stephen Ovens could call it an honorary member of the Motorsports Media Brigade, Kenny Peoples Jr. joining us online. Kenny, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet, anytime. So you had a chance to trade in the steering wheel for a microphone a little bit down at Woodhull last weekend, and as Stephen Ovens, the regular announcer over there, said, that it was something that you enjoyed doing, and you're a natural talker anyway, so you fell right at home.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of interviews together, but I think I was still running the steering wheel for my cousin Bobby. He was out there in the grid race, or in the sportsman race when I was announcing. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. It was a blast.
Were there any nerves that were tied to that? I mean, it's a little bit different than strapping into the cockpit of a modified.
Yeah, it's actually kind of, I don't know, I was kind of a little more nervous for everybody out there. I mean, you get back and watch them from up. That's the first time I watched it from the tower race, so, and I was actually kind of excited about it. It was pretty neat. But you can see a heck of a lot more, and you can really watch who's up on the wheel and who's doing their homework.
That was the first time you watched a race from up inside the tower. Is that because you're one of those purists that just loves to be outside and you need to have the dirt in your face and your ears ringing from the noise?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I got a big fan base, and the whole family's over in Turn 4, so I spend a lot of time over there in Turn 4. Mm-hmm.
So what was the impetus to get that ball rolling to get you up there? How did that come to pass?
I know Steve, we talked before, and I told him, I was just messing with him. I messaged him on Facebook there last Saturday morning. I said, if you need somebody up in the tower, I'm available. And kind of get a little bored sitting over there in 4. I ain't got no race car here tonight. So he says, well, why don't you come up and help me out with the sportsman race? And I jumped on it. I couldn't pass that up.
And it was engaging enough to where you're thinking about coming back.
Yeah, I would love it. I enjoy it. I mean, Steve's a real good guy. He knows he's a heck of a what do you call it? There, announcer there, and he's one of the best ones. But it's different, a lot different, and I can put my point of view in how the car's working, and it helps the fans, I think, understand the race car a little bit better if somebody's up there that knows kind of what a modified has to do and what it takes to get one around the racetrack.
It does offer a unique perspective. Somebody who's had success at Woodhull in the past, to come up there and sort of give some analysis of what the cars are doing. It's simple to find a car that's going fast. It's another thing altogether to understand why that's happening. And you go through situations with tire cycles and getting too hot or sealing over, or the track begins to change and you see guys hunting around to pick a line. You can offer a little bit of a different perspective on that because you've been in all of those situations, and that might not be something that you can just, a casual fan can just pick up by eye.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, that was a 30-lapper last Saturday, and you could see who had, and Steve asked me, it's like, what do you think they picked for tires? And I could tell. In the longer run, I could tell who had the softer tires on, and then who had a little bit harder tire on, and I could explain that to him. I mean, for instance, my cousin Bobby started 8th, I think, last Saturday night, and he put a 44-38 on. And there's a few cars that were fast right off the beginning, and Bobby was just a little bit slower than them. And like I told Steve, he's going to come around here. It's got to get some heat in the tires. But what really burned some guys up last weekend is a red flag come out because there's a car that started on fire, and that really changed the outcome of the race.
In what sense? Again, you're just focusing on the tire situation?
Yeah, the tire situation is like, say, the 5 car had a 4438 on, which was good, but he needed a longer run to keep the heat in. Well, that red flag come out, and that means when you have a hard tire on that like that, you got to keep it warm, and if it gets cooled off, it's going to seal over on you.
Right.
And that's what happened to some of them. I mean, Dayton Brewer, the one that won it, his tires was going away at the end, and that red flag didn't help him either.
What's special to you about Woodhull? I mean, you've had success on the track now, and you know the first time that you got up into the tower to hold a microphone and announce, it was at Woodhull. You've had friends and family that have been there for ages. What makes that place so special to you?
Well, my dad started racing there back in the 60s.
Right.
He's got 9 track championships there. Mm-hmm. And my brother-in-law Bobby Davis races there. My cousin Bobby. It's just a big family thing we do. We've done it. I wouldn't know what else to do on a Saturday night in the summertime, to be honest with you.
Right.
No, my dad's been there for, well, he raced 37 years at Woodhull. Everybody knew him. I mean, it's just like a big family up there.
Right.
But other than that, that's home. That's definitely home.
With that much family racing at the same track, what's that? How tense can things get at the holidays?
Oh, it's not bad. I mean, we're pretty competitive, but my brother-in-law Bobby Davis he races modified, same class as I do. Uh-huh. We've had our ups and downs. We've run into each other, but you know, at the end of the day, it's family, and we take care of each other, and everything comes around. You know.
Are the modifieds your favorite division to run there? I mean, with the different divisions that have been offered there through different iterations, owners, and things like that. There's been some great racing, top to bottom. It's not just a modified track. You got a good group of local talent there too.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, we got 14-year-old. We got Jeffrey Doherty racing in the modified class. He's won 3 features this year, and I think he's only 15 years old. He's a heck of a wheel man. He's going to be good, and his dad's got a heart of gold, and he's got a lot. I mean, that's a big family right there that stands behind each other. Dwayne Groover and Dylan Groover, he's raced there. I watched the kid grow up. I used to flag down in Moe's, and he had 100 feature wins in a go-kart.
Wow. And
I knew he was going to be something. If he had just something to back him, he's going to be something. I was fortunate enough I ran Warriors. I ran against Shepard and Travis Groover over there to Outlaw when it first started the bandit class over there.
Right.
I mean, heck, I run with Shepard. And we were beating on Shepard in the bandit class, and now look at him. But it's Woodhull's. Anybody could win on any given night, any of these guys out there. But like you're saying, we'll go back to, it's not just a modified class there. It's street stocks. They got more cars than anything. They put on one heck of a show at Woodhull. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But the class that I really wish it would grow would be the straight late models up there, because I think that'd be a super class.
The fire, though, still for you personally stays with the modifieds at this point. This year, the results didn't quite come around the way that you wanted them to, and had a lot of gremlins in the car. I ended up going winless, unfortunately, through the course of the year, but now it's starting to seem like a lot of that stuff has settled down. Yeah, it has. We had the first, we were waiting on a motor for the first 2 weeks. The modified started, so we were kind of behind in the points, and we actually got a little luck. We went right out with a bang. We finished second and third, 3 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. Then stuff started happening, and it was kind of weird. The car just didn't communicate. We didn't communicate. I didn't communicate with the car, I guess. I mean, right.
Program's excellent. It's just, some things happen on the modifieds. They're so finicky. And I missed it. I missed it for like 3 weeks, and I finally found it.
Right.
I actually sat down and took a week off, and I said, I'm done for a week. I got to figure out what's going on before I'm making it. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm. How you said it was finicky? How frustrating is that as a driver who's working on this car during the week, trying to get it dialed in. You missed the first 2 weeks because you're waiting on the motor to come back. It finally comes back, and things go off on the car. How frustrating that is as a driver who has so many laps on that track and such a fan base like you've got to be chasing the car as bad as it was there for a couple weeks.
Oh, it's extremely frustrating. I mean, I work a full-time job every week, and I'm down in this garage from, it's from 5 o'clock till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Trying to just, you make a little bit of adjustment here and you hope it's better, and you're tired out time Saturday comes, so that don't help any. And the main thing is I figured out, and I've been in the past, you can't drive on these modifieds when you're upset because you make an idiot out of yourself. But it's a lot of work. They're finicky. What I mean by finicky is you make one adjustment and change to something else really easy.
Right.
So you got to be up on your A game every week. I mean, some guys get out there and they hit it every week, but I mean, I got another guy that helps me in the shop. My dad takes care of the motor department, but he don't mess with any setup, nothing like that. But it's really just me and another guy.
And the motor combinations that you guys run down there on a weekly basis is a 370 modified, but then once you get past the end of the regular season, you guys get to run open motors, and you've got a new power plant that you're sitting on.
Yeah, so we just picked up a big block, and we put that in there for the Lyle Sherwood race. I mean, it's a huge difference. Actually, going to order a new car right here shortly for that new power plant, but I'm going to try it this weekend again. We had pretty good success with it. Like I said, in the Sherwood race, we drew bad. We got, I don't know, we got a lot of time in this one here. So, but hey, it's going to be a good piece. Brian Donoff Motorworks built it, and
okay,
I couldn't ask for a better motor builder, and it's a pretty potent piece.
With the bigger weight with the big block and also the different power band that you're going to have now with that, how did that change your setup approach? And what did that do beyond that in terms of, you were chasing the setup and everything. Now you've changed it drastically by changing the power that you're putting to the ground. Yeah,
for instance, a big block weighs 150 pounds more than my 370 did. Mm-hmm. So that creates a little bit less rear percentage. Right. But with these Bicknell cars, all they got to do is make a phone call to Randy Williamson from Bicknell, and he's awesome help. I mean, he builds Bicknell cars. So I told him what I have, told him what I got, and he gave me a baseline setup for a big block car, and it worked right from the get-go at Woodhall.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you, we're going to think I'm stupid, but I had so much forward drive, it was making me tight, and I didn't think I'd have the forward drive at Woodhall, being it's usually dry slick, but
right.
I mean, Ted's racetrack's been pretty good.
That's Woodhull it's highly banked and it's really tight in the corners. It's like a really steep paper clip, with the bull ring nickname and everything like that that comes along with it. The big block doesn't logically translate to success there. You'd think that you'd want something that's a little bit smoother power, like a small block. So how difficult was it to get that to hook up initially? I mean, besides the phone call to Bicknell notwithstanding, because they're going to give you stuff to go on, but it's almost counterintuitive to go with the big block.
Right, it is. Like we discussed this for the last probably 6 months. We knew kind of Woodhall was kind of going to have to go to big block, small block next year. We discussed it. I've been doing a lot of reading, going back to notes. I raced for Herbie Wright over to Outlaw and with his big block a few times and Woodhall a few times. And I kind of knew the gear to run, so that helped a lot. I didn't have to chase gear. Other than that, I put a little bit more, what can I tell you? I put a little bit more weight in the rear of the car.
Okay.
Forward drive. And I took it up in that Sherwood race, running hot laps. They run really good. I made a few adjustments. And the guys that run the big blocks, I talked to, you got to keep the car a little looser than you do a smaller block. So
right.
That's what I did. And it works. It works for me.
With that raw power, a dry slick track, like we were talking earlier, with guys having concerns over sealing a tire if they run a tire that's too hard. If you generate too much wheel spin on that harder dry slick surface, you're playing a little bit with fire because you could put too much heat in it, and then if you do catch a yellow flag after a long run, it could steal on you more easily. Is that a fair assessment of trying to work your throttle modulation?
Possible.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's going to be the ticket, but you know, like my dad always says, the guy that's running the right foot is the one who's going to win the race. Smart, you know, you got to be smart. You got to drive it like eggs underneath the gas pedal. So,
right.
And I try to do that as much as I can. I mean, it's tough at Woodhall, but I think we're onto something with the car. Here we go again. Every time I get working, we buy a new chassis. So
Right.
see what happens. But I think we're all good to go with the car. It's just I got to learn how to drive it just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Balance. The race car is balance. That's the main thing. Now I gotta communicate with it.
You alluded to something a few minutes ago that we can't let slip by, that transition now to getting away from the 370 modifieds and running a combined big block small block program, much the way we've seen other tracks go. Outlaws doing that now. Some of the folks opting to go with a big small block versus a small big block, and to keep the power under control, but still have the displacement so they can get good torque. Is that the direction that things are officially going now at Woodhall?
Yes, Woodhall is going big block, small block next year.
Okay.
That's why we kind of directed our way to this. I mean, when we get, I don't know how to explain it. When you get beat, I mean, they definitely ain't gonna get beat by a motor. You're gonna get beat out drove at Woodhall with a big block.
Yes,
with a small block against a big block.
Yes.
But it definitely is probably easier to hook up some of them big small blocks. But I got a lot of torque out of the motor. We had this motor built. Well, we didn't have it built. Actually, the motor built already, but it was built for a small racetrack.
Okay.
And that was our advantage for Woodhall. I mean, it was already built. It had the crank or the cam in it set just about the same size as Woodhall.
Sure.
So I think that's why we went this route. I mean, it definitely pulls good. Yeah.
You don't say.
Yeah, I've never drove anything like it, to be honest with you. I mean, I had absolute ball with it there. Sherwood race.
Don't say
smiles.
Don't say too much complimentary stuff about that motor with your dad hanging around there too close.
No. Yeah, he wants to get in it, and
I bet
tomorrow night. He wants. He's not a huge fan of the straight axle race cars. He's a A-frame guy.
Yeah.
He loves street stocks and street super stocks. But he's drove these modifieds before, and he said he always keeps telling me, I'll own them, you can run them.
So the motor that came out of that let me start that over. So what does this mean for the guys that have the 370 motors now? Is it basically fire sales so that they can go either big block or big small block or small block or whatever combinations they might go with, or are a lot of those guys going to keep the 370 and bank on that still being successful?
Oh, it's definitely going to be successful at Woodhall. Yeah. 370 will be. It's just on different nights. I do believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I talked to Chris Doherty, and I think he said something about keeping the 370
to
run at Woodhall next year, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think you're going to see a lot of the guys, I mean, probably, I don't know, we got 14, 15 cars, and hopefully hopefully get more next year for big block, small block, but I think you're going to see the majority of the guys build a little bit bigger than a 370.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would think they would, but you never know. But 370 at Woodhall is probably going to be great. I think it's going to work. It's going to work just as good as anything else.
So can you pull the motor out of your big block and your dad's trying to, or you pull the 370 motor out and you put the big block in for next year. Now you got this spare motor sitting around. How long before your dad tries to stuff that into a street stock?
I don't know. Actually, we don't have a spare motor sitting around. It's gone.
Oh, you sold that other motor.
It's gone. Yep. I went to my motor builder and he sold it to somebody else.
Gotcha.
I'm stuck with this, baby.
Yeah, you're committed now.
Yeah, I'm committed.
So, when you're shopping around the market to buy a motor is pretty saturated. You've got the option of the crate motor to go with. I think it was the W16, which is dirt legal. You guys aren't dirt sanctioned down there. But
No.
you've also got all these different. You've also got a number of good engine builders down in that part of the state. And Donath, take nothing away from Donath. Donath builds a fantastic motor. How did you end up settling on your engine builder? How much background and reference collecting did you do?
Oh, we did quite a bit. Sean, we watched Sean for quite a while there with a sprint car. You know,
Yes.
that he's crazy. But I watched. You know, he's like Chuck Hebring,
Yep.
Cobra.
Mm-hmm.
Went to a Donath motor there, and I mean, Brian's been building motors for probably 34 years now, but I guess just Facebook, checking him out, making some phone calls, talking to Brian, and he's so easy to talk to, and we just thought, well, you know what, let's get out of this area and let's go up to Syracuse area, and he's built a ton of 360 motors, 410s for sprints, and I said, he's got to be able to build a good motor.
Right.
And I'm glad we went to him. I don't think it'd ever change.
What's the displacement on the one that you've got now? This new big block.
What's that now? I'm sorry.
What's the displacement on the big block that you've got now?
What's the displacement on it?
How big is it? Yeah.
Oh, it's 467.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got some cubes.
it's pretty good. It's a pretty good piece, I guess.
Well, you were saying this is the best engine that you've ever had. You know, after one race, you're saying this might be the best piece you've ever driven.
It definitely is. It definitely is. I mean, it's all there. Yes, I wouldn't take it back. It's a good one.
So quick side shoot here. You said that Sean Donath was crazy because he drives a 360 sprint car. You ever considered driving one of those?
Well, actually, he's not just crazy because he drives one of them. I'd definitely get in one, but I watched him do some kind of some crazy stuff with one of them cars.
Right.
He's no, actually, I had problems with the motor there. I got it hot and I bent a valve, I think, and I took it up to him last year. And they were both there. We stayed up all night working on it, and he was telling me that he's like, you know, he said, you got to drive one of my sprint cars sometime. And he said, I think I'd let you. And Brian said, you know, he don't usually offer that to many people, so I'd jump right on it. And I never really jumped on it, and I probably should have.
Right.
But I would love to try one. I'd drive one of them. I mean, it's got wheels and a motor. I'm gonna drive it.
Right. Is the way that Woodhull's configured? Do you think, from your perspective, that you would drive a sprint car the same way that you would drive a modified? I mean, the modified tends to drive off the front corner, so to say, versus the sprint car, which you can lay over on the right rear.
Right, and I think I would definitely figure that out on the first lap. I never did drive. He's gonna have to bring a couple spare wings because I guarantee to have it upside down at least 3 or 4 times.
Right. just don't even fix it the first time. Just pound it back out because you know you're gonna wreck the next one.
That's right. That's exactly right. 'Cause I know I have a hard time taking my right foot off the pedal, and I think the way Sean was explaining to me, you steer him with the rear, and I guess I might be all right with it. I'd like to try one just to see.
We had that stretch where we had a number of modified drivers transition successfully over into that 360 division, and they were fast. They were real fast. They had that control
Mike
down.
Mahaney, right? I read him on Ariado there a few times. He's sounding like Stuart Friesen too.
I mean, there's a pretty good list. We had Stu Friesen, just to go off the top of my head, Jason Barney, Chuck Hebing. Lance Young was one of the first ones.
Italia too, right?
Steve Poirier, he's won a bunch of championships after he came out of the modified ranks. Brian McDonald came out of modifieds and drove sprint cars for a little while. There's a lot of drivers that came out of the dirt modified into the 360 program that were very successful.
Right. Yeah.
Dave Axton, Charlie Donk was in one.
I know
Danny
Charlie
Varon.
Donk. Yep, I do remember that.
Danny Varon did some great work in it. I think Larry White even has a win with ESS, I believe, with a 360
yes, he does,
car.
I do believe. I think I read that near Yotto.
Yeah, there's plenty of guys that are show that you can make that transition and still make it go fast.
Yeah, I would. I'd try one in a heartbeat. That's for sure.
You're going to be going to Outlaw Raceway for the Dutch Hogue Lucky Sevens weekend that's coming up here at the end of October, bringing that same motor. Track's a little bit different configuration. So what do you do? What do you do to get acclimated to that place?
Well, we got some notes from before, and we ran there every year we go to Dutch Hogue, and I always told Dad, I don't think our motor's big enough to run over here. I mean, these guys got some pretty good pieces, and now I think I might have to start over with a setup, but I'm going to go over and get as many laps as I can on it before we start racing. But I don't think we're going to be too far off.
Right.
But the motor's going to help tremendously. I'll have to really pay attention to the racetrack and the tires and just the setup overall. Usually it's dry over there that time of year, so it's hard. But
Yep.
I think we'll be in a pretty good shape.
Will that end your year, or do you have other stuff planned? I mean, what are the odds that we're going to see the car pull into Outlaw 200 weekend at Fulton?
I think that'll probably end our year.
Yeah.
We're big hunters, so I think we're going to put the race car up and get the bows out, do a little deer hunting with the family.
You got some good hunting ground down there?
Yeah, actually, we got 2 big dairy farms that my uncles own, my grandfather and my dad. We hunt. We got our whole farm. We got some pretty good hunting down here. We do everything as a family. So we race in the summer and hunt in the winter. And actually, the first thing I got to do is spend a little time with the kids. They back me every Saturday night, and I start racing on Fridays. And we used to own a go-kart track on Sundays, and I closed that down because I just don't have the time. My daughter races on Fridays go-karts. I race on Saturdays. And
Right.
we're pretty busy.
Yeah,
We're constantly going.
That's 2 full-time jobs right there. Keeping the car going on Friday and then running the car on Saturday and then running a go-kart track on Sunday when all that stuff was happening, that's a lot. That's 2 full-time jobs, just keeping up with racing plus what you're doing during the day.
Big time. And I got a 3-year-old. He turns 4 in December, my boy, and he's racing go-karts next year. But
Oh, really?
I got a real good friend that raced at Moses, Rich Kelly, and I tell you, that guy would do anything for kids, and he's going to help me out next year tremendously. So that's gonna take a load off my mind.
Sure.
For that, so that'll help.
Rich Kelly, I remember a green sprint car. Tim Kelly, is that any relation?
I don't believe so,
No?
because Tim Kelly is actually Sam Kelly's boy,
Oh, okay.
and Sam Kelly is our milk truck driver. Yeah, I remember when Sam used to own Dundee. Yep, Sam Kelly did. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it's. It might be. I haven't really asked Rich that, but that's a good question. It might be related to him.
Usually that racing group stays pretty tight, but stranger things have happened. So
Yeah, they do.
In terms of the hunting thing, what's the biggest deer that you've taken out of there?
I got a 9-point in my bow a couple years ago. It was 125 inches.
Wow.
My uncle's killed. My cousin Bobby's killed some really, really big ones. My Uncle Brad's got a 150 incher right here in New York State up on the farm.
Wow.
My cousin Billy. I mean, we let them grow up,
Mm-hmm.
manage them. We got enough acres where we can if we can just get the neighbors to cooperate. But I tell you, we're pretty competitive in that too. We get a buck pool going, and whoever kills the biggest buck, we do it all. I mean, geez, race to the tree stands. That's what it is.
That's that's pretty funny. You have the buck pool. I like that.
Yeah.
You guys keep them? You get them all mounted?
Oh yeah, we keep them. We eat them. We do it all. My dad's got a big den. He's been to Colorado, Montana. He's been everywhere and hunted.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he's got some real big elk and on the wall and caribou and mule deer and he's done it all.
That time of year is right around the corner. It doesn't feel like it though. Well, today a little bit more, but man, last 3 days when it was up in the 90s, heading into October, that was a little atypical.
Absolutely. No, tonight I'm staying outside the race shop, and I'm telling you, I'm ready to go. Sunday, racing better get over Saturday night because I got it all picked out for Sunday.
Awesome.
I got to throw a shout out to my wife too, because she's backs me 100%. She's down in the garage with me too. She washes the race car body and she does everything. So I can't leave her out. You know.
For sure.
She's a number one fan. She's at the races every weekend. And,
does she hunt too?
oh yeah. Yeah.
Is she in the buck pool?
She does. What's that?
Is she in the buck pool?
Oh yeah. She actually. I'm actually the nice guy. I let her sit. We all got tree stands with heaters in them. So I let her sit with me first couple days, and that's about the only time she gets to hunt because she works quite a lot. But
right.
She's right up in there. She hasn't killed a big buck yet, but we're getting her closer. I think this year will be good for her.
I like what you're saying about the herd management thing. When I was working up at Lakeland Equipment, we had a lot of casual hunters that would just do, if it's brown, it's down, it's quote unquote meat in the fridge, you know, whatever you care to look at. But if you take some time and really plan out what you're doing with your population that's on your hunting grounds, you can get some of those deer to grow up to be pretty good size. And then when it's time to take them out of the herd population, take them out of the breeding population, they've got their offspring out there, take them out and put them on the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we want some meat, we'll shoot a big doe. I mean, I can see kids and veterans and elderly people or anybody that owns land, whatever they want to do. But to me, I feel better about myself when I shoot a mature buck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of us do on our farm. They're all good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've done our share of shooting deer back, in the 90s.
Right.
I can remember we had 7 bucks hanging on the wall or hanging up on the pole up the farm the first hour of deer season,
wow.
8-9 years ago. Well,
right.
They weren't nothing to look at, but then we got thinking, we want something to hunt next year. So, change the perspective of doing it. We've been doing it, managing for about 8 years, 10 years now.
Cool. Yeah, it's great to say you got 9 bucks, but when they're all the size of a German Shepherd, it's not that special.
Exactly.
You talked about your dad, and you talked about Doneth Motorworks and Randy at Bicknell, and your wife Shannon being part of the team and such a key member. Who else makes sure that the car gets out there week in and week out? You got sponsors, and you got a big family team.
Oh yeah, I got awesome sponsors. I got Southern Tier Generators right here in Addison, our hometown. I got good buddy Terry Pierce, Southern Tier Customs. You ever need anything dipped, hydro dipped, bring it to him. I got all my radius rods, all my shock mounts, everything dipped by him, and they're still like they're brand new. I mean,
wow.
Running in the Salt Bryan racetrack, it's still a great job.
Mm-hmm.
My mom owns People's Bakery down here. My Uncle Bill, the farm. Steve Slinus and Kaylee Slinus, they're a big part of the team. I got in turn 4 fans, the fans at Woodhall, my fans are. I could run horrible for a year and still they'll be like, you'll get them, you'll just keep it up. I mean, I lost my nephew. Let's see. I think it's been, I can't even tell you, 4 or 5 years ago now. He was killed on my Polaris Ranger out back here at our race shop. And we have a Jake Davis Memorial race every year now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you heard of it.
Yep.
I won the first one up there, and I told them guys when I won, and I said, I don't care if I win another race. I really don't. I mean, in the last 4, actually we've had four Jake Davis Memorials, so he's been gone 4 years now.
Right.
But I finished in the top 3. I was in the last round, actually second to last round every year so far. And so I can't complain.
Sure.
But our family, not to get outside, our family sticks together. That's what we do, and it's just amazing how many fans we have and how much sport. But we got some of the best sponsors. My brother-in-law, Mike and Tam, my sister Tam, Micro Solutions, they're a huge part of our team. My brother-in-law, he owns Computer Service right in Corning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I got it made.
Well, I wish you the best coming up with the postseason races. Hopefully that motor carries you to a couple victories. And then for sure when you get into the deer season, wish you some luck bringing home something to hang on the wall.
Oh God, I appreciate it. Thank you. I need all luck I can get, especially. I like to really run really good this weekend, and that's why we're going to take the car up tomorrow night. Teddy's going to have a practice session or two for us, so
Yep.
I'm going to take advantage of it, and maybe get up there in that car with old Steve.
Right? Wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, it would be. I like I said, I really enjoyed that. It was, up there, and another guy I talked to who used to be a longtime announcer and is awesome as Morgan Colgrove.
Definitely. Yep.
You won't find another guy that knows history of Woodhull Raceway better than him.
He is an encyclopedia. I actually had the chance to work with him. It was 10 years ago now, back when I was working at, then it was BlackRock, first under Lynn and Gary Montgomery, and then under Dean Hogue. And he was quite a guy. I really liked him a lot.
Oh, yeah, he can tell you every car my dad raced, every feature win, every track championship,
right?
And what he probably ate back in the 70s.
Right. Well,
he's a pretty special guy up there at Woodhull.
So, would your fans take it if you had if you turned it over completely and you just got rid of all the race cars and just elected to go around and be a announcer for the rest of your racing career?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it might have something to do with that. I mean, I think quite a few of them will try to. My buddy Tommy Space that helps me and Justin Martin, they're two of my biggest helps on the racetrack. Heck, I got a cousin Tommy that comes all the way over from Montour Falls.
Right.
He's got a big farm over there, and he comes over and helps me on Saturday nights. So I think they'd probably get. They like to get away, so I don't think they'd want to see me quit racing.
Either way, even if you're going to do it part-time, you got to come up with a catchphrase.
There you go. I know.
You gotta. That's your homework. That's your homework before you get to this weekend and get back up there with Steven.
A catchphrase.
Yep.
I don't know. We'll see if we can figure one out.
Well, Kenny, man, it was great having you on. It's great to catch up with you. And I hope everything plays out the way that it seems. You guys are due for some luck this year, and hopefully it comes in the next couple weeks.
Oh, thank you. Well, we need to turn it around here and get our momentum back for next year, because I know Dad, he puts a lot of money in these race cars, and it's getting frustrating. But he'd like to see see a little money back, I think. Then that $3,000 would probably work out pretty decently.
That'd probably help. It would probably help. Well, look, let us know how you make out this weekend. Keep posting the pictures, and for sure, when you get into hunting season, send some cameos over with some big antlers.
Oh, yes, sir. We'll do.
Kenny, I appreciate you coming on for a little while.
Hey, thank you. Anytime.
We'll catch up with you soon.
Yep. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
There
Bye-bye.
goes Kenny Peoples Jr., new announcer extraordinaire, and dial it in that big block this weekend for some action over at Woodhull Raceway, and then he's going to be going to the Dutch Hogue Memorial Race at the end of October over at Outlaw, and that's going to end his season. And in terms of what's happening this weekend, Outlaw 200 on deck over there at Fulton Speedway. That's going to be this weekend. A young 17-year-old driver in the late model division, Anna Parkhurst, is going to be making the 1,000-mile drive to come up here from her hometown down in Evans, Georgia, to run with the late models in a 50-lapper. And that's part of Friday's program. Racing is going to start tomorrow at 7 o'clock. That card includes the Doug Cooper Memorial 36 for the Mod Lights, the 4-cylinder Open, which is 25 laps, the Novice Sportsman Championship, which is 20 laps in distance, the Sportsman Shootout Heats, Consolations, and 15-lap modified qualifiers, in addition to that Go Nuclear late model event that you're going to see Saturday. That's when the full Outlaw 200 program happens. That card's going to start at 4:30. That's the Sportsman Shootout Last Chance races, the balance of the qualifying for Outlaw 200, which is all the heats, the consies, and then the 200 lapper plus that Sportsman feature event. For tickets and other information, you can go on FultonSpeedway.com, click on the Outlaw 200 logo. You can find everything you need there. Steve Payne coming up with a win in the Gunslinger 50 over at the Outlaw Fall Nationals, which was the two-day show over in Dundee. Payne raced with Alan Johnson. Andy Buchetti was charging as well. Steve Payne finally cleared Alan Johnson on a lap 35 restart, and then Buchetti, he bolted past Tyler Seary to pick up third, but with open track, nobody was going to stop him. Steve Payne, when I saw him today, He said basically it was one of those, once-in-a-lifetime race cars. It was just on rails, perfect, super fast. Derek Pozziello won the 15-lap dash. Dave Marcichelli suggested he was going to be a force early on in the American Racer Tire Grit Crate Sportsman feature, and he took second in 4 laps and ended up getting the lead on lap 11. He held on to that, working through slower traffic. Corey Cormier, who led early, ended up coming home with second place ahead of Tom Collins. Marcichelli then jumped to the lead in the Open Sportsman event. That was a 20-lapper, and that fell in his favor. He won that. Billy Chantel ended up with, let me start over again. It was Tom Collins Jr. taking second, behind Dave Marcichelli. Billy Chantel was third, then Kevin Jordan and Brian Fish. Bryce Davis came away with the lead early on in the crate late model feature, and he was battling pretty close with Jason Knowles. Jeremy Wonderling was in there. Jason Knowles broke, which left Wonderling and Davis to they had a great race. They were trading slide jobs back and forth, real dicey fight at the point, and then Davis ended up cementing his spot out in front, and kept that lead over the line, over Wonderling. And Wayne Robertson was running in the top 3, but spun in the third turn on the last lap. Brian Knowles and John Waters, Alan Chapman all moved into the top 5 at that point. Top 6 were all knotted right together for a long time in that IMCA feature, and Richard Michael got up to second place, locked that down, and then got past Brad Seitz to come away with a win there. Tyler Walker ended up picking up a win in the 600cc micro sprints. He started 8th and got to second in 2 laps, which was impressive by itself. He chased Garrett Bard for a long time, and even with the restart, Bard was able to hold him off. Garrett Bard coming away with a win in that one. And then, for some reason, Walker drifted out of the top 5 as Eric Wise, Matt Smith, Brandon Otto, and Mickey Siliberto ended up cracking into the top 5. The Model Lights ended up running 2 features due to curfew on Friday night. The held-over feature went to Paul Klager, and Klager ended up winning the second one as well, doubling up. The 4-cylinders had 2 races, with their feature also being held over. We'll get into that more here in just a second. Eric Boozer ended up winning the first of the 4-cylinder features, held on for the balance of the race over Ray Heyer, and then Ray Heyer won the regularly scheduled main over the top of Cody Baker and Brad Shepard. The 360s were the headline event on Friday's card. The opening night, 145 cars were signed in, which is one of the reasons why some of those events were held over. It went so late that they ended up, curfew was enacted, so they pushed the rest of the stuff over onto Saturday. Chuck Hebing and John Preston battled at the front. Hebing ended up assuming the lead and stayed there, and that was his second straight Fall Nationals win over Joe Trenka, Jordan Thomas, Jason Schultz, and Preston held on for 5th. He was the pole dash winner. Dave Franek won the dash for cash. Ray Bliss on Friday held off Adam Leslie to win the Hoosier Tire Crate Sportsman feature. He got the lead back on lap 23 after there was an extreme pass on the inside line. In the 25-lap feature, he worked the restarts and finally got the lead in the win, holding off Leslie, Dave Marcichelli, Carl Comfort, and Kyle Inman. Kurt Stevens got the lead with 2 laps to go in the street stop feature, battling against Chuck Winslow, and ended up getting the checkered flag first over Winslow, Lance Albany, Gene Ballmer, and Glenn Wertenauer. The hobby stock feature was started, but a bad crash brought the action to a halt, and they ended up moving that to Saturday. The Dutch Hogan Memorial 777 weekend is going to be October 20th and 21st. Super Dirt Series action over at Fonda Speedway. Bobby Varon, you can say that he played tire strategy perfectly. Stu Friesen ended up having a tire go flat. That gave the lead to Tim Fuller. Let me make sure I got that right. Double check that. Let's see. Yeah, Stu Friesen lost the tire on lap 81. Then Peter Britton lost the tire on lap 85, which gave the lead to Tim Fuller. Tim Fuller had the lead, and then there was a restart on lap 96 after Rich Scalata had a flat tire. Varon couldn't stay with the number 19, but the tire went bald on Fuller, ultimately went flat. After he took the white flag, Varon led the last lap and came away with the win in that one. Danny Varon, after a flat tire on lap 67, came back through for second place. Had Pat Ward, Billy Decker, and Matt Shepard. Matt Shepard was a focus of a lot of conversation here, and I can't in good memory recall the last time that anything like this has happened. Other than maybe, if you really want to split hairs, there was that one time at Outlaw or Black Rock or Yates County Speedway. I can't remember what year it was to pin down what the name was. But Steve Payne won a race there and they wanted to tear his car down, and then the car ended up being taken to Weedsport, and it was torn down, and it was found legal, but still Steve was told, don't bother bringing the car back, don't come and race there anymore. This is a one-off event for Fulton Speedway in the Outlaw 200, and Matt Shepard's been told don't come. I mean, obviously there was some history there with you jump online, you can connect the dots and figure out the information as a business owner. It's a sole proprietorship, basically, the way that works out. If I understand the legalese of it correctly, the way that actually it works out as a sole proprietorship, you can say, hey, here's the letter. This is why you can't run here. And for everybody that was saying he can't do that, John White, who owns Fulton Speedway, for him to say he can't do that, unfortunately, yeah, he can. It doesn't make it right or fair or whatever other phraseology you want to use to describe that situation. But ultimately, yes, he can do that. And yes, he has. Matt was uninvited from the Outlaw 200, and we'll see what happens from there. I know we've had Corey Reed on the show before, and hopefully a little bit of a discussion on that isn't anything that's going to affect that personal and working relationship that we've got with Fulton and Brewerton Speedways. It's out there as fact. You can find out more about it on if you jump on social media. There's plenty of information out there. Go out there, do the research, and figure the rest of the details out for yourself. But yeah, that is happening, and it's unfortunate, but it's not a Super Dirt Series race. And Matt has found plenty of success on the Super Dirt Car Series this year. Even after missing 2 races, he's knocking on the door of winning yet another Super Dirt Car Series championship, and we'll have to see how that all plays out. On the topic of Super Dirt Car Series drivers, fans can go online and vote on speed51.com and pick their favorite big block modified driver. You have to have made 10 starts on the series. It's a fun way to recognize the drivers of the Super Dirt Car Series. That was a quote directly from Mike Perotti, of the series director of the Super Dirt Car Series. And fans can vote one time in a 24-hour period. Voting runs through November, and the most popular driver is going to be announced at the Super Dirt Car Series banquet at the end of November. Drivers must have competed in at least 10 Super Dirt Car events as of September 8th, 2017. You only need to share your name and email address and a zip code, and the email address is how you're going to be alerted for upcoming events, news, and promotions through the Super Dirt Car Series. So looking at it, we got about 40 minutes in. I'm about ready to stick a fork in this one. We appreciate everybody who tuned in and listened and hung out with us for a little while. Great to have Kenny Peoples on, and certainly hope that we can stay in contact as the postseason progresses. I wish everybody a successful trip out to Fulton Speedway. We're going to be back in 2 weeks. It'll be right in the thick at that point. It'll be right in the thick of the aftermath of Super Dirt Week, I believe, if the schedule plays out correctly. I'll check that real quick, because I know final round is supposed to be on next week, and here we are. That will be the 5th, and yeah, so we'll be back again on the 12th of October, so we'll be looking to have some conversation about Super Dirt Week and all the goings-ons tied to that up there at the Oswego Speedway. So without any further ado, we appreciate everybody who came and supported the 31st lap tonight. Good to be back. Episode number 230, if you can believe that, 230 episodes, coming up on another anniversary for us, too, here right around Super Dirt Week, when we aired our first one, back when we had a banker's light, and there wasn't even any video, with Mike Mallett sitting at that table, and it was just that audio MP3, and we had to hold the microphone up to the or hold the phone up to the microphone in order to do interviews with drivers. So excited to still be with everybody, and looking forward to another busy postseason as we get closer to Super Dirt Week, and all the other postseason races as we get closer to crowning that Super Dirt Car Series champion. That's going to do it for 2:30. We'll see you next time.